What if I told you that just 5 words have the power to completely flip the dynamic in your love life? 5 words that make a man lean in closer instead of pulling away. Most women text too much too soon and then wonder why he suddenly stops chasing them. But when you drop these 5 words at exactly the right moment, everything shifts. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you sent a message that made him stop scrolling, stop thinking about anything else, and feel that sudden rush of curiosity? Attraction was never really about constant attention. It's about sparking imagination instead. The real problem is that most of us try to explain ourselves through long paragraphs, but men don't connect with essays. They connect with emotion. That's exactly why 5 simple words, placed perfectly, can accomplish more than 50 texts begging for a reply ever could. And here's the honest truth. This isn't about manipulation at all. It's about shifting the balance so you stop doing the chasing and he starts chasing you instead. If you're tired of feeling like you're the only one putting in effort, stick with me, because in a moment I'm going to show you exactly what to say, and more importantly, when to say it, so you can finally turn the tables in your favor. Let me ask you something first. Why is it that one simple text can make a man drop everything just to run after you, while another text sends him slowly drifting away? It has nothing to do with your looks. It has nothing to do with playing hard to get. It's about sparking his emotional mind in a way he simply can't brush off. In this piece, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific words, yes, only 5, that when used at the right moment create an instant deep pull toward you in a man's mind. And here's the best part. He won't even understand why he feels that pull. This isn't about tricking anyone. It's about understanding how the male mind actually works and using that knowledge in your favor. Men think and react very differently from women when it comes to attraction. While women typically connect through emotional sharing, men respond more to mystery, curiosity, and specific emotional triggers. When you use these 5 words the way I'm about to show you, his brain essentially starts doing the chasing for you, even if he'd been pulling away beforehand. So if you've ever felt ignored, ghosted, or stuck wondering exactly where you stand with someone, stay with me, because after this you'll never have to chase him again. Let's start with the first secret word, the one that flips a switch inside his head and makes him actually work for your attention. But before I reveal it, you need to understand why these words work in the first place, because if you don't grasp the psychology behind them, you might end up using the right words at completely the wrong moment and lose their entire effect. Here's the honest truth. Most people don't realize that men fall in love in a fundamentally different way than women do. While women usually connect emotionally first, men respond strongly to emotional triggers, things that make them feel excited, curious, and just slightly challenged. When those particular triggers activate, a man's brain releases dopamine, the same chemical tied to desire, reward, and even obsession. When you send the right 5 words, you're not just sending an ordinary text, you're flipping a switch somewhere in his brain. Suddenly, you're not just another name in his phone. You become a mystery he wants to solve, a challenge he wants to win, and someone he genuinely feels compelled to impress. This happens because of what psychologists refer to as the reward anticipation loop. Men are naturally wired to chase things that feel slightly out of reach. If you hand everything over too easily, his brain registers there's no real challenge left, and interest starts fading fast. But when you use these 5 words with real intention, you stir up curiosity and uncertainty, and his brain begins craving more from you specifically. Here's the key point though. This isn't about lying or playing games with someone. It's about understanding how attraction actually operates on a deeper psychological level. The mistake so many women make is saying too much, giving too much, or explaining everything far too early in the process. That kills mystery instantly. When you use these 5 words correctly, you create just enough emotional tension to make his mind race with questions like, what does she mean by that? Why is she saying this now? Is she hinting at something more here? And once his curiosity gets hooked like that, he naturally starts chasing the answer, which really just means he starts chasing you. I've watched this pattern play out again and again, regardless of the specific situation, whether he's been pulling back lately, Whether it's someone brand new you just started texting, or even a long-term boyfriend who's gotten a little too comfortable. Once you genuinely understand this psychology, you can flip the entire dynamic without ever having to beg for his attention. And now that you understand why this actually works, you're ready for the fun part, because I'm about to give you the very first word that instantly grabs his focus and makes him crave more of you. Here it is. Imagine. Now, I already know what you're thinking. How can such a simple word carry that much power? But here's the secret behind it. The word imagine immediately pulls him into a mental picture where he becomes emotionally involved without even realizing what's happening. When you ask someone to imagine something, you bypass logical thinking entirely and speak straight to the emotional part of the brain. And that's exactly where attraction gets built. For instance, if you send a text like, "Imagine us watching the sunset right now," or "Imagine if you were here with me, it would be trouble." The moment he reads it, his brain automatically starts constructing that picture. He's no longer just reading words on a screen, he's actually experiencing the scenario. And here's the most important part. When his brain builds that mental image, it releases dopamine, which directly connects that pleasurable feeling to you specifically. But timing genuinely matters here. You don't want to just toss this word out randomly. This first word works best once there's already some kind of existing connection between you two. Maybe you've already shared a few fun, flowing conversations. Maybe he's shown some interest, but things have slowed down lately. Dropping a curiosity-driven imagine text in that context sparks his attention almost immediately. Here's exactly why this approach works so much better than being overly direct. Men crave stimulation and a sense of mystery. If you simply text, "I miss you," it's sweet, sure, but it's also completely expected and predictable. But if instead you say, "Imagine what would happen if we spent tonight together," now his brain genuinely lights up. His curiosity spikes, and he starts leaning right into that fantasy on his own. You're not chasing him in this scenario. You're simply opening a door and inviting him to step through it. And once he does step into that vision, he naturally wants more. More conversation, more closeness, more of you specifically. But remember, imagine is only the opening move. It's the spark that lights the fire, nothing more. The next words I'm about to share don't just grab his attention, they tie his emotions directly to you in a way that's nearly impossible for him to shake off or ignore. Because while imagine hooks his mind initially, the second and third words lock in his emotions and keep pulling him back again and again. And once you learn how to use them properly, the way he chases you will genuinely never feel quite the same again. Now that you've captured his focus with that first word, it's time to raise the emotional intensity a notch. The second and third words together are "what if." Sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But these two small words carry the power to open up his imagination, trigger genuine curiosity, and create a pull that keeps him thinking about you long after the conversation ends. Here's exactly why. When you say "what if," you're planting a small seed of possibility directly in his thoughts. It invites him to picture something that hasn't actually happened yet, and the unknown nature of what could be makes him want to lean in closer to find out. His brain automatically starts filling in the blanks, essentially writing the story himself. And because he's the one imagining it rather than you spelling it out, he feels far more personally invested in the outcome. For example, you could send a text like, "What if tonight was different?" or "What if we just disappeared together for the weekend?" Do you notice the difference here? You're not directly stating what you want at all. You're hinting, you're suggesting, you're leaving space for his mind to wander freely. And that's precisely where desire begins to take root and grow. Men are naturally built to chase the unknown. The more room you leave open for imagination, the more he wants to uncover the actual answer. And to find that answer, he has to keep coming back to you again and again. That's the real beauty behind these two small words. They crack the door open just enough for him to step through, but not so wide that he already knows the whole story ahead of time. That small remaining gap is exactly what keeps him hooked and thinking. Don't overuse this technique though. If you throw around "what if" constantly in every conversation, it quickly starts losing its effect entirely. The real secret lies in timing and contrast. Drop it in during moments of genuine playfulness, a bit of building tension, or even comfortable silence between the two of you. That's precisely when your message hits differently and sparks his brain like a jolt of electricity. And when you combine that first word, imagine, with what if, at just the right moment, the resulting pull becomes almost impossible for him to resist. He starts picturing actual moments with you. His dopamine levels rise, and before he even consciously realizes it, he's craving your attention more intensely than he has in a while. But here's where things get even more interesting. The fourth word is really what locks his desire firmly in place. This particular word doesn't just stir up curiosity anymore. It actively pushes him toward genuine emotional investment. Once you understand how to use it correctly, he won't just be thinking about you casually. He'll actually start planning ways to win you over. To understand why these 5 words work so effectively together, you first need to understand how a man's brain processes texts completely differently from how yours does. Men and women generally text for very different underlying reasons. For most women, texting is fundamentally about connection. It's about sharing thoughts, showing genuine care, and building closeness over time. But for many men, texting tends to be more about excitement and reward instead. Let me break that down further. When a man receives a message from you, his brain quickly scans it, even if he's not consciously aware this is happening. On a subconscious level, he's essentially asking himself, does this make me curious? Does this excite me? Does it make me feel wanted? Or does it make me feel pressured instead? If your text sparks genuine curiosity, his brain gets a small hit of dopamine, the same chemical linked to desire and motivation in general. And once that rush hits him, he naturally wants more of it. That's exactly why the right 5 words can feel almost magical in their effect. They light up his emotional brain directly, not just his logical thinking. But here's the underlying problem. When you send messages that are too predictable, too readily available, or too long and overly detailed, there's simply no dopamine kick involved anywhere. His mind files the whole thing away as ordinary and unremarkable, and his focus quietly fades elsewhere. That's exactly why sending huge paragraphs explaining every single feeling you have, or constantly checking in with a simple "Hey, what's up?" rarely produces the results you're hoping for. It just doesn't activate his internal reward system the way you want it to. Instead, men are naturally pulled toward challenge and mystery over predictability. When you give just enough information to spark his imagination, his brain does the rest of the heavy lifting on its own. He fills in the remaining gaps, creates his own vivid images, and becomes emotionally drawn into the picture you initially planted for him. Think about it this way: a man's attraction genuinely lights up when he feels something unexpected, whether that's curiosity, excitement, tension, or even a bit of playful challenge thrown his way. When your message successfully creates those particular emotions, he starts connecting those feelings directly back to you as a person, and that connection is exactly what keeps him chasing you further. This is precisely why the words I'm sharing with you carry so much power. They're specifically built to activate his natural reward loop, the very same internal system that drives him to pursue goals, chase success, seek adventure, and yes, even pursue love itself. Once you truly understand how his brain reacts to these signals, you'll realize it was never about texting him non-stop or over-analyzing every single word choice. It's simply about sending the right triggers at exactly the right moments. And now that you understand how desire is genuinely wired inside his mind, we're finally ready for the 4th magic word, the one that takes him from simple curiosity all the way to being deeply hooked emotionally. This is the exact point where his emotional investment starts climbing significantly higher. Now we've arrived at the part you've probably been waiting for, the 4th and 5th words combined. These are the ones that tie everything together neatly and lock his complete focus onto you. Ready for it? The words are, "You won't." I know it sounds incredibly simple on the surface, but here's the actual secret behind it. These 2 words create a playful sense of challenge, and when you challenge a man in this way, his natural drive to prove himself instantly kicks into gear. It taps directly into something psychologists call reactance, the innate need to prove your own freedom or ability whenever it feels like it's being tested by someone else. For example, you might text something like, "You won't believe what I just found out," or you won't survive a night out with me. Do you see exactly what happens there? By saying you won't, you're lightly daring him to prove you wrong. His brain reacts almost instantly with, "Oh really? Watch me." And just like that, you've completely flipped the entire dynamic. Now he's the one doing the chasing. And here's the best part of all. When you combine these final two words with the first three words we already covered, the overall effect multiplies significantly. Imagine sending a text like, "Imagine what would happen if you won't back out," or "What if I told you about a secret place only I know about? You won't guess where it is." That specific combination touches nearly every attraction trigger in his brain simultaneously: curiosity, mystery, anticipation, and challenge all at once. His mind instantly wants to resolve that tension, and the only real way he can do that is by getting closer to you. The real beauty here lies in the subtlety of it all. You're not pushing him toward anything directly. You're gently guiding him instead, letting his own brain naturally create the desire on its own. That's precisely why this approach works so well. He never feels like you're manipulating him in any way. He simply feels naturally drawn toward you instead. And once he actually starts chasing you, something powerful happens internally. He begins investing more time, more thought, and more genuine emotion into you as a person. And the more he invests overall, the stronger his attachment to you naturally becomes. This entire approach was never about tricks or manipulative games. It's about building a genuine pull that feels completely natural to him while being nearly impossible for him to resist. Now that you know all 5 words, you're holding the key to unlocking his deepest attraction triggers without ever having to beg for attention, over-explain yourself, or over-analyze every single interaction. But knowing the words themselves is really only half the equation here. The real magic actually lies in how and when you choose to use them. Before we move further, I want to warn you about something important. If you're making certain common texting mistakes, even the right words won't save the situation. These particular mistakes silently kill attraction, push him further away, and make it nearly impossible for him to chase you, regardless of how much potential existed at the start. The first major mistake is over-texting. If you're constantly double messaging, sending back-to-back texts, or always initiating every single conversation yourself, you unknowingly strip away the sense of mystery entirely. Remember, men are naturally wired to pursue. If you're always available and always present, there's genuinely nothing left for him to chase after. You don't need to act cold or deliberately play hard to get, but you do need to leave enough room for him to actually feel your absence and want to reach back out to you. The second common mistake is oversharing your emotions too quickly. If you pour out long paragraphs about everything you feel, everything you need, or why you're upset about something, his brain simply doesn't process that information the same way yours does. For a lot of men, too much emotional intensity delivered too soon feels genuinely overwhelming rather than endearing. Instead, try dropping small emotional breadcrumbs, short, intriguing texts that spark curiosity and gently invite him to lean in closer on his own. That's what actually keeps him invested over time. The third mistake is predictable, low-energy texting. Simple lines like, "Hey, what's up?" or "How's your day?" don't stir up any real feelings in him at all. He's probably receiving those exact same generic messages from several other people already. If you genuinely want to stand out from the crowd, your texts need to carry some real energy, curiosity, or a bit of playful challenge woven in. That's precisely what makes you memorable and keeps him coming back for more of your attention. Another significant mistake is chasing him the moment he starts pulling away. It's completely natural to feel a bit of panic when he suddenly goes quiet on you. But sending texts like "Why aren't you replying?" or "Did I do something wrong?" only pushes him further away in the end. Instead, give him some breathing room. Use one of the 5 words at exactly the right moment to naturally pull him back toward you, instead of forcing an immediate reaction out of him. And here's another important truth. Using these 5 words too often is also a mistake in itself. Their real power actually comes from being used sparingly and rarely. If you drop them into every single conversation, they quickly lose their entire effect over time. The secret is to sprinkle them in only at the right moments, times when you specifically want to spark his curiosity or reawaken his desire for you. Avoiding these common mistakes will completely transform how men respond to you overall. When you combine patience, mystery, and the right emotional triggers together, you create an energy that genuinely makes him want to give more, invest more, and chase you that much harder. Now, you already know the 5 powerful words that make a man genuinely chase you. But here's something most people tend to overlook entirely. Getting his attention initially is really only step 1 in this whole process. If you want him to keep chasing you, to keep showing up consistently, and to keep putting in real, genuine effort, you have to understand how to keep him emotionally invested over the long run. Attraction was never just about one clever text message. It's about building an ongoing emotional experience that keeps his mind engaged and his heart genuinely tied to you over time. Men don't stay hooked because of how you look, or even because of what you specifically say to them. They stay hooked because of how you consistently make them feel. The real secret here is emotional variety. If every single interaction feels exactly the same, he will slowly start tuning out over time, not because he's lost interest in you as a person, but simply because his brain stops feeling that same sense of excitement it once did. Think of attraction almost like tending a fire. If you only keep throwing in the exact same type of wood repeatedly, eventually that fire is going to die down and go out completely. You need to mix things up regularly to keep the flame genuinely alive between you. Sometimes you should be playful and teasing with him. Other times you should lean into being soft and openly affectionate instead. And every once in a while you should pull back just slightly and let him wonder what's actually on your mind. That built-in unpredictability keeps his brain alert and consistently craving more of you. Another important factor here is rewarding his effort when he actually makes one. When he does something thoughtful, whether that's texting you first, planning something fun for the two of you, or opening up and sharing his feelings honestly, respond in a way that clearly shows you noticed and genuinely appreciated the gesture. Even something as small as saying "that made me smile" can go a remarkably long way in reinforcing his behavior. This type of response activates his internal reward system directly, linking your happiness clearly to his effort. And once he feels that connection, he'll naturally want to do more of it going forward. But here's exactly where many women unknowingly lose his attention over time. They make everything far too easy for him. If he knows you'll always reply instantly, always be completely available, and never challenge him emotionally in any way, his brain eventually starts thinking there's simply nothing left for him to earn from you. And when there's nothing left to earn, the chase inevitably dies out. That's exactly why keeping a touch of genuine mystery matters so much here. Not manipulative mind games, but healthy emotional space instead. Moments where he genuinely wonders what you're doing, who you're spending time with, and what's actually going through your mind. That specific kind of curiosity becomes one of the strongest forces of attraction you can possibly build between the two of you. Also, keep creating shared experiences together, even if it's only happening through text messages. Use these 5 magic words to paint small emotional pictures directly in his mind. Send him playful dares occasionally. Drop subtle hints about fun things you genuinely like to do together in the future. Spark his imagination regularly. When you become the one person who consistently makes him feel excitement and curiosity every single time he talks to you, you become genuinely unforgettable to him. Here's the bottom line to take away from all of this. Attraction doesn't last because of one single big move or one grand romantic gesture. It lasts because of consistency, variety, and balance working together over time. Be playful with him. Be a little unpredictable. Give him space to actually chase you, and then reward him properly when he actually does. That ongoing cycle creates a loop inside his mind that keeps him excited, genuinely invested, and even a little obsessed with you, not just in this exact moment, but for as long as you genuinely want him to feel that way. So let's bring everything together now. You currently have the 5 powerful words that can completely shift the entire dynamic between you and any man you happen to be messaging. You've seen exactly how they spark curiosity, build genuine desire, and make him chase you without him even fully understanding why. The first word, imagine, draws him directly into your world. letting him picture himself right there with you and emotionally live out the exact moment you're suggesting to him. The second and third words, what if, open up genuine possibility, planting small seeds of mystery in his mind and leaving him wanting to know more. And finally, the fourth and fifth words, you won't, challenge him in a fun and nearly irresistible way that lights up his natural instinct to prove himself to you.